And in reality, it may be a bunch of different modalities that are all being combined together to do all of this. But it's funny they brought up the electrical wiring things. I was just talking to a physicist not long ago who was, we were talking about the possibility of using your home wiring to direct some frequencies from you, and it is possible, and if it's possible, it's being done.
Yeah, I have to say that, and our whistleblowers are saying not 10 years difference, but a lot greater, maybe even thousands of years difference in terms of technology, and at least in terms of what we call the secret government. So I just want to throw that out there. So people are probably hearing these, tones in the background, and these are people that are coming on. And I would like to encourage people to call in. The call-in number is on the front page, I believe, of our website, but it is also on the microeffect.com. So if you want to call in and ask questions of our guest, Dr. John Hall, you're welcome to do so in the next half hour, and we will periodically stop this discussion so that we can bring on other people to ask whatever questions are plaguing them about the subject. Is there a certain direction that you have been going, in other words, sort of to the exclusion of other directions? Because I'm noticing in even talking to you that this is such a complex subject that you actually have to sort of drill down in one way or another. And, for example, the uses of this technology militarily are, mind-boggling and so on. And I am just wondering, at what are you concentrating on individuals in like so-called normal society, the normal public, as opposed to the specialized applications of this, or are you leaving yourself open to deal with, in other words, the military applications and so on?
Well, I'm trying to be pragmatic about it in the fact that, they've spent a lot of money and a lot of years creating this technology. There are people out there that are calling for the total, abandonment of this type of technology completely. Being a realist and knowing how the government works, that's not going to happen. What we're really hoping for is to at least have it contained back in the context with which it's supposed to be used by our guidelines. I met with Representative Jim Guest in person several months ago and was on his radio show with him 4 Sundays in a row. He's one of the few legislators that have actually come around to seeing that this is a real problem, and he's trying to pass legislation against it. And he asked me, he said, well, do you have a problem with this being used in within the confines of the military overseas and, on military targets? Well, the humanitarian side of you says, this shouldn't be used on anybody. But the realistic side, you have to say, I guess I don't have a problem with it being used within a slim context of military use. I do have a problem when it's being used to victimize a mortgage broker or a housewife or, a doctor or, someone that's here that's just trying to live their life. And, like you said, you've got to kind of drill one direction. So really the direction we're trying to go with is to get a congressional hearing, get disclosure, hopefully find 1 or 2 people up there in Washington that are still, honest enough and ethical enough to see this as a problem and get some disclosure and at least stop the experimentation that's being done here. So, I guess that's the answer that I'd have to go with.
Are you having whistleblowers approach you, though, that are revealing more aspects to this question that we're talking about, some of which that you may not even be able to talk about?
Yeah, actually, I've talked to quite a few people in government positions that have voiced, ethical concerns with some of the technology, that have found themselves victimized by it. We've got people within Freedom from Covert Harassment and Surveillance that have been intra-government whistleblowers that have had this happen. We've and had people that are former MK Ultra victims that are still being harassed by this as well. So, I mean, it's kind of disheartening when you see that people that are in the profession still working for the government that are trying to actually bring light to this, can't even do it because the minute you mention it, you're almost instantly discredited. So, and that's the way the technology works. But slowly, as more and more people come out, more and more people admit what's happening. In sheer numbers, we're hoping that we'll be able to find somebody in government that'll listen and have a congressional hearing. That's one of the reasons I want to get this summit together with those of us that are doing the research on it and publishing and being activists in the field, is to come up with a set of guidelines, some criteria, and a direction on how to get this done instead of Dr. Bell doing his research and his work, and Dr. Begich his work, me my work. We're all writing down different venues when I think we need to all get on the same bus and find a direction that this needs to go to get something done about it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Obviously, there's going to be strength in numbers, so I applaud your efforts there. Is there anything that you can talk to us about in terms of what other things are going on in regard to this technology? In other words, some of the things that may not have been covered in my questions here, and things that you might want to tell people about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I think there's after being on Coast to Coast, I noticed I had a lot of emails from people that were emailing me saying, you know what, I've got this and this going on, and do you think this might be harassment? Is this what you're talking about? With this type of technology, it's not just hearing voices, and it's not just being burned with something that you can't see. There's a lot of things they can do, and sometimes it's real subtle. Electronic disturbances in the home. That's a big one that when you initially start having it done, you'll go, you know what, my lights are coming off and on their own, or my power is being turned off and on, or I've got a battery-operated radio that comes off and on its own. I'll shut it off and it comes right back on. Those are things that when you start seeing that happen, if it happens real infrequently or happens once, maybe that's your wiring, maybe it's a short in something. If it's happening every day, a lot of times that's how the harassment starts, is through just electronic harassment, not of yourself, but of your electronic appliances. Be on the lookout for that. A lot of times before people start hearing voices or being attacked by anything, they'll notice break-ins, and break-ins where nothing is stolen. Your appliances may be taken apart and put back together wrong intentionally, so you notice it.
What about the use of digital television? Because my understanding is that they're actually using the television now as a surveillance device.
I've read that too. I've read that too, and that is one of the reasons that, as you know, nationwide they've been trying to get away from analog television and go to an all-digital system. And make you purchase a box to be able to convert the digital signal if you don't have a digital TV. Knowing what I know about the technology, let's put it this way: I don't have TV in my house. I listen to the radio and I read. So,
I have a TV that I have disconnected from the digital box completely. And when I took it in, I was actually flabbergasted by the size of the cables that went into the box. They were incredibly huge and thick. And I was just thinking, there's no way that the technology requires cables like this unless there's something else going on.
Well, exactly, Carrie. And there's actually been some studies on that and some very good articles written on using digital TV as a control weapon. And when you link that in context with what we're talking about, with GPSing your structures with the census. It all comes together.
Yeah, it's incredibly pervasive.